Hi everybody, I'm going to talk with you about a new story, but I want to remind you that we've worked on 3 comprehension strategies. So at the beginning of the year we talked about making connections. How does the story remind you to yourself, to the book, that connection? And then we made connections from one book to another book. And then we've started talking about visualizing. So today we're going to do some more visualizing with a book, and I'm going to only show you just a little bit of it. I'm not even going to show you the cover, but this story is by Dave Pilkey, and it's called The Paper Boy, and it's about a boy and his dog enjoying the early morning delivering newspapers. Now, if you didn't know, a paper boy is a boy who delivers newspapers on a job. It's actually a job my brother had when we were growing up. So he would get on his bike and he would put the newspapers in a bag and he'd throw them onto the driveway for people that wanted to read the paper in their house. Sometimes people read the newspaper now online, so it's a little different. So just to help you kind of envision and visualize the setting, I'm going to just show you a few pictures. This one is the Morning Gazette, which is the name of the newspaper company. You can see it's dark. And then you can see the truck driving like it's going to start taking the paper somewhere. And then you can see the man dropping him off in front of that red house, the newspapers for the day. Alright, so the rest I want you to go ahead and visualize in your mind. Think about what's happening based on the words you hear me read. And I'll stop in just a minute and let you do some sharing. The mornings of the paper boy are still dark, and they're always cold, even in the summer. And on these cold mornings, the paper boy's bed is still warm, and it's always hard to get out, even for his dog. But they do. What did you see in your mind when you heard this part of the story? If you were right here with me, would you say something like, you saw the boy in his bed and it was dark outside? Maybe you saw a sleeping dog. You might have seen him covered up in the blankets because it's cold, even if it was summertime, because the nights do get cool when the sun goes down. Maybe you saw stars out the window. All right. But they do. That was the last page I read. And they step down the quiet hall, past the door where the paper boy's father and mother are sleeping, past the door where his sister is asleep, and down to the kitchen where they eat from their bowls. And out to the garage where they quickly fold their papers, snapping on green rubber bands and placing them in a large red bag. What did you see in your mind now? Would you probably tell me that you saw a boy walking past doors, going down the stairs, doing it very, very quietly? Even your mind can maybe make a movie in here it's very quiet. And then he flips on the light maybe in the kitchen. What do you think's in his bowl? Maybe cereal? Wonder if the dog's eating his breakfast too. And then that last part, he goes out to the garage. He's folding up the paper and putting on those rubber bands that are green rubber bands. I don't have green rubber bands. And then he's putting them in a bag, a red bag. It's hard to ride a bike when you're loaded down with newspapers, but the paper boy has learned how to do this, and he's good at it. The paper boy knows his route, which is the path he takes. He knows his route by heart, so he doesn't ever think about which house to pedal to. Instead, he's thinking about other things. big things and small things, and sometimes he's thinking about nothing at all. His dog, too, knows the route by heart. He knows which trees are for sniffing, and he knows which bird baths are for drinking, and which squirrels are for chasing, and which cats are for growling at. What did you see in your mind now? Did you see him riding along the house? What did you see in the sky? Did you see the sun? Was it dark still? I bet some of you would say you see a little bit of sun coming up because morning's coming. And you see the dog either chasing in front or behind, playing with the other cats, going up and sniffing trees as he goes along. He knows which bird baths are for drinking and which squirrels are for chasing and which cats are for growling at. And all the world is asleep, except for the paper boy and his dog. And this is the time when they are the happiest. But little by little, the world around them wakes up, and the stars and the moon fade away, and the skies become orange and pink. And when the paper boy has delivered his last newspaper, he and his dog race home, and his empty red bag flaps behind him in the cold morning air. Let's stop right there. What did you see now? Did you see the boy coming back to his house? And as he's coming back, lights starting to turn on in the houses, the sun's coming up. A lot of times we think of, blue skies and yellow, but they said pink and orange. That's from that sun setting up. Did you see him ride along with an empty red bag flapping in the wind? And the dog and him chasing each other so he can go fast now because he's done? All right, I'm going to read the last part, and I want you to think about this question. What are some of the things the paperboy does to get ready to deliver the newspapers? I'll read the last part. Soon they're back home. It is still dark inside, but the sounds of morning are all around. His father and his mother are awake and talking softly in their bed. His sister's downstairs watching Saturday morning cartoons. And back inside his own room, the paperboy pulls down his shade, crawls back into bed, which is still warm. And while all of the world is waking up, the paperboy is going back to sleep, and his dog is sleeping too. Their work is done. And now it is time for dreaming. So I'm going to have you answer in Schoology that question. What are some of the things a boy does to get ready to deliver the newspapers? And then a second question, what are some of the images you had in your mind about the boy or the dog as you were hearing the story? And if you want to go back and listen to some of it again, just press the pause button and go back a little bit. I can't wait to see what you tell me.